I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is a recap of the incredible rally held for the Democratic candidates running for office this Tuesday in Pennsylvania. Democrat Josh Shapiro, who is running for governor, and John Fetterman, who is running as the Democratic candidate for Senate, both unapologetically pro-democracy candidates who are fighting for the people to make people's lives better. And at this rally, we had President Biden. We had former President Barack Obama. We had a huge crowd of people. The enthusiasm there. You could feel the energy watching it, and you will feel the energy on this recap video. So let's start off showing you what took place here. And look, we've done other videos of the deranged and disgusting Trump rallies that spread hate and conspiracy, and it's all Trump just saying, me, they're all after me, they're trying to get me. Have you ever seen a president be treated with so much bullshit? I mean, that's what Trump's rallies, those pro-fascist rallying events are. These rallies are talking to voters about how we move our country forward and how we make our country better. Let's get right into it with the Democratic candidate for governor, Josh Shapiro, who spoke to the crowd about what freedom really is and how the Democratic Party is fighting for the people's freedoms, while the MAGA Republicans use that word freedom while trying to take it away. Play the clip.
You know, this guy loves to talk a good game about freedom, right? Let me tell you something. It's not freedom to tell women what they're allowed to do with their bodies. That's not freedom. It's not freedom to tell our children what books they're allowed to read. It's not freedom when he gets to decide who you're allowed to marry. I say love is love. It's not freedom to say you can work a 40-hour work week, but you can't be a member of a union. That's not freedom. And it sure as hell isn't freedom to say you can go vote, but he gets to pick the winner. That's not freedom. That's not freedom. But you know what? You know what we're for? We're for real freedom. And let me tell you what real freedom is. Real freedom is when you see that young child in North Philly and you see the potential in her, so you invest in her public school. That's real freedom. That's real freedom. Real freedom comes when we invest in that young child's neighborhood to make sure it's safe so she gets to her 18th birthday. That's real freedom.
And then Democratic candidate for governor Josh Shapiro talks about his opponent, Doug Mastriano, the MAGA extremist who is running to be the governor, the election denier, someone who was literally at the insurrection. And Josh Shapiro talks to the crowd and says, this was someone who showed up on January 6th at the insurrection to take away your vote. Play the clip of Josh Shapiro.
This is a guy who doesn't respect women here in Pennsylvania. In fact, if you don't think like Doug Mastriano, if you don't look like him, if you don't vote like him, if you don't worship like him, if you don't marry like him, you don't count in his Pennsylvania. You know how I know that? Because I know where he was on January the 6th. He went there that day, understand, he went there that day not to hear a speech or protest. He went there that day to stop your vote from being counted, because he doesn't respect you. And he's already told us what he plans to do the next time in 2024. He has said he's going to use his power as governor to, his words, not mine, review the voting logs, make corrections, And then he plans to decertify certain voting machines in this Commonwealth so he gets to pick the winner. Let me ask you a question. What voting machines do you think this guy's going to decertify? Probably the ones here in Philadelphia, right? Are we going to let him get away with that? Listen, that is not how our democracy works.
Now, that is someone who I want to see running the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That is a leader right there who cares about the people. Then we go to John Fetterman. And what's Fetterman's message? Fetterman's message is that I believe that all work and all workers should be paid with dignity, should be treated with dignity. We're not just talking about the billionaires and the decamillionaires, as the MAGA Republicans are. How many yachts do they get? How many mansions do they get? What about talking about the rest of Americans, the hard-working Americans who go paycheck to paycheck? How do we make sure that instead of a minimum wage, there's not just a living wage, but a wage with dignity that Americans who work hard deserve, so they don't have to worry about paycheck to paycheck. They don't have to worry about, can they buy a home or will their home be foreclosed on? We need to treat workers with dignity, and that's Fetterman's message. Play the clip.
Who can live off $7.25 an hour? Oz refuses to commit to raising our minimum wage. I believe that all work has dignity, and every paycheck must have dignity as well, true. We need to expand our health care, the same kind of health care that saved my life.
And then we hear from President Biden. This was one moment of President Biden's speech that I loved, where he said, look, I lived in Pennsylvania until I was about 10 years old, which is far longer than Dr. Oz, the MAGA extremist candidate running for Senate as a Republican. Then he's lived here in the state. Play this clip of Biden.
John Fetterman is Pennsylvania. He is Pennsylvania. And Oz and Pennsylvania? Look, I lived in Pennsylvania longer than Oz has lived in Pennsylvania. And I moved away when I was 10 years old.
And then we hear from former President Barack Obama, who brought the House down with this incredible speech. And Obama says, look, you want to go back to all these last elections? All Republicans have is fear. What they tried to do back in 2014, ISIS is crossing the border and Ebola is going to come over here and everyone's going to die of Ebola, and all of these boogeymen that they try to create. And here they're doing it again. And Obama said, with our policies, we stopped that. You know what? We stopped Ebola because we believe in science. Play the clip.
2014, same playbook. Try to make you afraid of everything. You had Ebola and ISIS and immigrants, and they were all coming to your neighborhood. It turned out there were no ISIS fighters pouring across the border. By the fall, the number of migrants, they were mostly unaccompanied children, had dropped considerably. And then it turned out that we knew how to prevent Ebola from reaching our shores because, you know what? We believed in science. It was very helpful in dealing with this disease. But you know what? People got afraid. People got afraid. It was visceral, and so they either didn't turn out in the right places. We lost the Senate. You know what happened because of that. So midterm elections matter. Republicans understand this. I understand it, I promise you. And Joe Biden understands it. And if you keep that in mind, if you ignore the fear-mongering, if you ignore the cynicism, if you vote, then we will keep this country moving forward. But you've got to do it.
Then Obama talks about the Affordable Care Act Affordable Health Care Act with over 35 million Americans who now have health insurance as a result. And it's the MAGA Republicans, they're the ones who talk about death panels, and they're the ones who actually try to implement it. That never took place under Obamacare, under the Affordable Care Act, not at all. People have got health insurance, and MAGA Republicans are fighting right now. They're fighting in court. They're fighting with legislation they want to introduce to repeal the Affordable Care Act. They want to take away health insurance. Play this clip of Obama.
They will resort to fear. They want to scare the living daylights out of everybody. And most of the time, those fears have a very slender relationship to reality. So back in 2010, Republicans tried to make everybody afraid about deficits and death panels. Oh, deficits are going to ruin the country. It turns out the deficits didn't explode. We actually brought them down. And by the way, as soon as they got a Republican in office, they didn't suddenly care about deficits and pass big tax cuts for the wealthy. Weren't paid for. Thank you. Man, we've got some outstanding historians here. That's good. Because you were only 8 when all this happened. So I'm impressed you knew this. 10 years later, not a single person has faced a death panel from Obamacare. On the other hand, 35 million people now have health coverage thanks to the Affordable Care Act, and Joe Biden just made it that much cheaper to sign up.
And look, Obama talks about the importance of these midterms, and he says, if we kept the Senate in 2014, a lot would be different. It's just the reality of the way our political system works. We'd have a different composition of the Supreme Court, and the freedoms that people should have, the freedoms that people deserve, like the freedom that women have over their bodily autonomy, would not have been taken away by these MAGA Republican extremist Supreme Court appointees. Play the clip.
Back in 2011. Imagine if we'd been able to pass meaningful gun safety legislation back then to prevent more deaths. Imagine if we'd been able to reduce our emissions even further than we did. We'd be further along in avoiding the worst impacts of climate change. If we had kept the Senate in 2014, we'd have a very different Supreme Court making decisions about our most basic rights. So midterms are no joke. Yeah. Sometimes we get so focused on the presidency. But I am here to tell you that our democracy works as a team sport. A president can't do stuff alone. That's not how our system is set up. So what happens in the House, what happens in the Senate is vitally critical. And the good news is you have an outstanding president right now in the White House. So you don't have to.
And Obama points out that Dr. Oz, who's running for Senate, he's pushed all of these, as the MAGA Republican candidate, he's pushed all of these snake oil to people, and tried to sell them all of these products that don't work and say they're miracle cures. And what Obama points out is he says, look, is it laughable? Yeah, but it's important that we take this very, very, very seriously. And it's important because someone who knows better and tries to enrich themselves by hurting people, by selling them snake oil with lies, that tells you about what they would do as a senator. That tells you about where their priorities would be and how they would treat the people. Dr. Oz is a complete and utter and total fraud, and he knows it, and his goal is to victimize people to enrich himself and his decamillionaire and billionaire friends. Play the clip.
Let's face it, it's easy to joke about Dr. Oz. I mean, some of these, remedies he's pushed on TV, the raspberry ketones and the lavender soap and the palm oil for dementia. But you know what? That matters, because if somebody who knows better is willing to sell snake oil just to make money, then he's going to be willing to do anything and say anything to get elected, even if it's not good for you. And Pennsylvania, you deserve someone that's honest with you. You deserve somebody who cares about you. You deserve somebody who will tell you what they really think, what they really believe, that won't be looking to see what Donald Trump tells them they should be doing or thinking because it's expedient. Somebody who's going to work for you every day and fight for you. And by the way, somebody who's actually from Pennsylvania. You deserve somebody like John Fetterman.
Then Obama talks about Doug Mastriano, the MAGA extremist running for governor, and talks about how he would just dress up in Confederate uniforms. And we're not talking about because it was Halloween, just on casual Friday, he goes around dressed in a Confederate uniform. Play the clip.
Should gay people be allowed to get married or adopt children? Nope. He doesn't think so. He does think it's okay to dress up in a Confederate uniform for a staff photo at the college where he used to teach. And, hey, it wasn't even Halloween. It was like casual Friday or something. Listen, Pennsylvania, let's remember what century it is.
And here's the part that I really liked as well, when Obama gave Biden the credit that Biden deserved, which is that, look, the presidency really shows who you are. The presidency doesn't change you, but it accentuates your qualities. It reveals those qualities that are in you. And look at how Trump acted. Look at how the former guy acted when he got those powers. That's how he always was. But it accentuated that megalomaniac, psychopathic, destructive, dangerous, pro-fascist. All of that was highlighted and accentuated. But with Biden, we see a compassionate, hardworking person, and how that is accentuated, how that is shown. Play the clip.
You know, I can tell you that the presidency does not change who you are. You can tell by my successor, it didn't change him. It reveals who you are. It reveals who you are under the stress and strain of the presidency, and the decency, the empathy, the belief that everybody counts, that we have seen on display from Joe Biden these past 2 years. That's who he is. And that's why you need to vote for more leaders like him. That's why you have to vote for Josh Shapiro. That's why you have to vote for John Fetterman. They've shown you who they are.
And now let's look at Obama's closing message. Whereas in the rally that Trump held, that fascist rally he held in the city of Latrobe in western Pennsylvania, Trump's closing message is, the DOJ is trying to get me, it's bullshit, and President Xi of China, I call him king. He's a king to me. That's literally what Trump's closing message in Latrobe was. You want to compare that to what the closing message here from Obama was? Here's the closing message from Obama, that these slash and burn tactics, it doesn't have to be this way. This isn't the way politics has to be. We can strive for honesty, fairness, equality, truth. Play the clip.
The kind of slash and burn politics that we're seeing right now, that doesn't have to be who we are. We can be better. And it has nothing to do, by the way, with political correctness or being too woke. It's about fundamental values that my grandparents from Kansas taught me. Values I grew up with, values you grew up with, values we try to teach our kids, values we learn in churches and mosques and synagogues and temples: honesty, fairness, opportunity, hard work, values that Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman stand for, values that Joe Biden stands for, values that were enshrined in our founding documents a few miles from here, a clarion call for freedom and equality that Philly's own Liberty Bell represents. That's what America stands for. That's who we are.
And there you have it, folks, the Democratic rally, a breath of fresh air when you watch that and compare that to the MAGA fascist events that were taking place in Western Pennsylvania, in the city of Latrobe, and all those other MAGA fascist events that we have been covering here. Pro-normalcy. How do we help people? How do we deliver actual results? How do we make healthcare affordable? How do we bring down prescription drug prices? How do we improve our infrastructure? How do we make sure that women have the bodily autonomy they should have because it is their body? How do we treat all people with dignity? How do we make sure that workers have a dignified salary, not just a living wage just to live? I mean, hell, Republicans want something that's not a living wage. Republicans want to have the minimum wage. Democrats are saying not only do we want a living wage, we want a wage with dignity that hard-working Americans deserve. Republicans are against that concept. They're against the idea of a dignified wage. They just want to have people who have mega mansions, not just one, but how do we get tax cuts to get them 10 mega mansions? Not just one yacht. One yacht's not good enough. How do we do a tax cut that only benefits billionaires so they can have 10 yachts? They can have 10 mega mansions. How do we help them manipulate our tax system while screwing the workers? That is literally the one platform that the Republicans have, and the rest of it is this weird cult behavior towards Donald Trump and worshiping Donald Trump, whose main talking point is not how do I help workers, not how do I make education more accessible, not how do I make healthcare affordable. That's not what they're talking about. His message is, it's bullshit how they're treating me. I'm being treated so bad. I'm your favorite president. Aren't I your favorite president? Am I the greatest? I am so good. I am so good. You know, our country's going to crap. Our country's going to crap. That's all they talk about. How do you vote for that? It's not normal. That's so anti-American what the MAGA right are saying right now. It is despicable. And I long for the day where we can have two normal political parties having normal political discussions, where we can have fierce disagreements over minutia in the policy, where we could have strong disagreements over how to improve these various aspects and various policies. But at a baseline, we've got to agree that this country is a democracy. We have to agree to treat all people equally. We have to reject fascism. We have to reject cult behavior. We have to say QAnon is bad. We can't have a political party like the Republicans who post QAnon stuff every single day. They post where we go one, we go all with Donald Trump holding guns and all these weird cartoons of him. That crap is freaking weird. That's weird and dangerous, and there's nothing more anti-American to me than that. That's got to stop, and we could stop it together. The media, this is kind of a lost cause at this point. I mean, there's some journalists who do it good, but the fact that the media talks about, the Democrats and the Republicans, and Democrats feel this way and Republicans feel this way. This Republican Party is not a normal Republican Party. They are MAGA fascist Trumpers who want to overthrow the election, not just the one upcoming, but the old one. They want to have a coup, and the media treats it with nonsense. They act like that's not a real thing. That's why we have the MeidasTouch Network. That's why we highlight it and we talk about this together as a community. And that's what's so important about this network, is that this network is a community. We are powered by you and fueled by you. And so we need you to get out the message. Leave comments below about what you are doing to help register and get out the vote, what you've done to help register voters, and now what you are doing to get those registered voters to the polls to vote. Tell us your stories. We would so appreciate that. And make sure you vote. Call everybody now that you know to vote blue. That's how you can help. Hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers. We just passed 700,000 subs. Let's get to 1 million. It's free to subscribe, so just hit the subscribe button. And in addition, if you can become a patron of MeidasTouch, we would be so grateful. Go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Join one of the memberships there. Lots of exclusive content like behind the scenes footage, Q&As, exclusive podcast drops, and more. But most importantly, that's how you can help grow this independent media platform. We will be so, so grateful for it. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you. Go to patreon.com/MeidasTouch now. Make sure you subscribe. I'm Ben Meiselas. Until next time.
This November is Rowvember. MeidasTouch just released its brand new collection of Rowvember t-shirts and pins to let the country know what's at stake this upcoming midterm election. Go to store.MeidasTouch.com to grab yours. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.